Hello everyone. So, coming out of the theatre after watching this year's horror movie, Smile, that thing happened to me when something sticks with you and then it bothers you, so I was sleeping with my eyes open for the whole week after. And then some days later, I thought about Teen Wolf for no apparent reason and their main actor, Tyler Posey, and then my brain placed Smile on top of Tyler, and I was like, hey, you remember that Blumhouse movie called Truth or Dare?
Okay, wherever you go, whatever you do, it'll find you.
So today, I will be comparing the 2018 movie Truth or Dare and the 2022 movie Smile, comparing the plot, the story, my opinions, and possible explanations on how to beat each demon, and trying to explain why, in terms of the horror thriller factor, Smile, in my opinion, was just a far better version of the smiling demon. Let's get started. First, both stories follow a very similar premise in terms of their antagonists, a malicious demon who possesses people and wears their bodies like a mask, appearing as nothing more than a distinct evil smile towards their victims, with only the afflicted being able to interact and witness the demon at all.
I'm seeing something no one else can see except for me. It's smiling at me.
Hunting its prey by personally infiltrating their minds, trying to break them down from the inside by attacking their weaknesses, eventually causing their victims to die.
Well, I'll die.
So Kalex was the Truth or Dare demon, and although there was no name given to the Smile demon, I would just call him Elms, which is smile backwards minus the I, so it sounds better. Miss Reyes was a woman in Mexico who, as a girl, was part of a convent of sisters. She released a demon in her church in hopes it would protect her sisters who were abused by the priest of the mission.
We suffered in silence. Then one of the girls told a secret. She knew spells that could call spirits, so she summoned a demon named Calyx. He possessed our game.
Although Kalex fulfilled her wish and killed the priest, it would not leave so easily.
Calyx didn't want to stop. He made us keep playing. Many of my sisters died.
And instead possessed games the sisters would play after. Anyone who refused to play would die, anyone who failed the game would die, leaving Miss Reyes with no choice but to seal the demon away with the sacrifice of cutting out her tongue and putting it in a sealed clay pot.
It was you who summoned the demon?
It's not entirely clear how she summoned Kalex, like from hell, or how she even figured out how to seal him away, but that's what we know. Fast forward to present-day Mexico, Kalex was sealed in the now abandoned church with an unsuspected group of college friends, including a girl named Giselle and a boy named Sam. Being college kids, Sam breaks the pot and releases Kalex.
But you unleashed this evil, which means you're the only one who can stop it.
Because the group decided to play a harmless game of Truth or Dare in the church, Kalex possesses their version of the game, causing everyone who is asked the question while in the abbey to be locked into playing forever.
I was thinking Truth or Dare.
What, this a 7th grade sleepover, or?
I know it's a kid's game, but I mean, if you play it right, it's a chance to expose your friends' deepest secrets. Make them do things they don't want to.
Well,
Olivia, Truth or Dare?
In their version, anyone who picks Truth twice in a row would force the next person to pick Dare.
My friend just had a turn in the game, wouldn't let her pick Truth. Do you know why?
It's how we played. We called it 2 truths and a dare. If 2 people picked truth in a row, then the next person had to do a dare. Thought it was more fun that way.
More fun?
Carter said,
Refuse to play.
tell the truth or you die. Do the dare or you die.
Being possessed by Kalex, who will cause the person to die by any means available. A new group of friends, including Olivia, who is the protagonist of the movie, go to Mexico for spring break. Sam, still in the game, is dared to bring Olivia and her friends to the mission so they can play Truth or Dare, and let Kalex have more victims.
I needed to find someone with friends that I could trick into coming here. I brought you all up here to play this game because I'm okay with strangers dying if it means I get to live.
The more people playing, the longer it takes for your turn to go, and giving Sam and Giselle a temporary out.
I thought that when he got a new group to play that we would be out. I can't believe he only got 5 of you to play. If he would have gotten more, then I would have had a longer time before I had to go again.
After a lot of gruesome deaths, Olivia attempts to complete the ritual a second time by having Sam cut out his tongue, who released Kalex this time.
But you unleashed this evil, which means you're the only one who can stop it.
I need you to cut out your tongue.
The attempt fails, but Olivia saves her last friend alive, Marky, by making a YouTube video while still standing in the church, locking everyone who watches it into the game by asking them truth or dare from afar. In hypotheticals, Olivia and Marky would be at the back of the line and the number of people watching the video could go up indefinitely, giving Olivia and Marky a very large break between turns.
I'm so sorry, but I have to ask you, truth or dare?
That's the general story and the plot of The Demon. Smile 2022 begins with Dr. Rose Cotter receiving a patient named Laura in her psych ward, who is terrified and distressed about something she claims she is experiencing.
Hi, patient. Hi. I know you're nervous. I just want to have a chat.
I'm seeing something no one else can see except for me. It's smiling at me.
She claims that she's being haunted by something only she can see, a smiling demon that wears people's faces. It could be strangers, family, or even deceased people. Being absolutely terrified that nobody believes her, she says the demon taunts her and causes her to see things and hear things that aren't real. Rose asks if Laura can see the demon at the moment. She pauses and then freaks out because she is seeing it again. Appearing to be suffocating, Rose tries and calls for help. After a time, Laura appears in the room standing calm and normal, but with an evil smile while staring straight at Rose, then grabbing a piece of sharp clay and gouging herself to death. Rose bears witness to the scene and has to inform the police of the event. She meets police officer Joel, who she informs of the event. Days pass and suddenly Rose starts seeing the exact same thing. People smiling at her, random people or deceased. Elms has the power to alter people's perception in nearly any way, by making Rose hear things that aren't there, see things that she is interacting with that are different objects to what she thinks they are. Trying to make sense of what is happening to her, she learns that Laura witnessed a suicide a week prior to her death in front of Rose, and this pattern had indeed repeated itself nearly 20 times in a row. Seeking police officer Joel's help, she learns of one man, Robert Taylor, who among the 19 people in a row broke the pattern and didn't die.
My name is Dr. Rose Cotter.
What do you want from me?
Why is it that everybody else who's seen it is dead and you're alive?
Rose talks to him in prison and confirms he also experienced the smile. He did his own research and found another line of witness suicides and that a man escaped by killing someone else and leaving a witness. Robert Taylor escapes Elms by passing him on. Robert then alerts to the fact that this demon gets its power through trauma, that it feasts on it and after about a week forces its victims to kill themselves. If there is a witness at the time, Elms will pass on to whoever witnesses the trauma, which is what allows him to pass on. Rose contemplates murdering one of her patients. Elms will pass on to whoever witnesses the trauma, but instead believes she can beat the demon by confronting her own trauma and being alone, because if she is completely alone and happens to die, there is no one for Elms to jump into, which does make sense. Either dying alone or at least trying to confront her own trauma would hypothetically weaken Elms. She then travels to her childhood house where she witnessed her mother's attempted suicide, who she purposefully let die right in front of her as a child, to set herself free from her mother's drug abusive burden and let her mother finally rest in peace. But the demon is too strong and in a very clever twist, uses its hallucination powers and makes Rose only believe she has beaten Elms, but instead just tricked her into allowing Joel to find her in the real world. Rose then sees the demon's true face and is then possessed by Elms, who forces Rose to kill herself, passing the curse on to Joel and continuing the cycle. The plot summary was a lot longer than I thought. If I have lost you, I apologize, but I want people who haven't seen the movie to also get as much of the full story as possible. Now, Truth or Dare, in my opinion, of course, failed to deliver on the horror significantly more than Smile did. One reason was lack of care for characters. Out of Olivia's friends, we arguably are only made to root for two characters. Olivia doesn't count because she is the protagonist. We want her to live because it is her perspective we are following. It's a default. But besides that, I would argue Penelope, which was the sweet girlfriend who is killed off protecting Olivia, and Brad, who is killed while attempting to complete a dare. Besides this, Tyson was the entitled elitist boyfriend who died protecting his fraud.
Will you stop being such an asshole?
Truth, I guess.
How long have you been forging prescriptions?
I don't.
Marky was the reckless, cheating girlfriend of Lucas.
What secret does your best friend make you hide?
Marky's constantly cheating on Lucas.
Curious. I'm seeing things.
Touch me again and I'll break that hand.
Lucas has nearly zero personality other than being the obligatory hot guy.
This is the spell. It's in Spanish.
And Ronnie is the unlikable womanizer.
You look like a girl who's good with balls.
Please do not talk to me.
Penelope.
Dare.
Make out with Olivia. No, look, just one game. Like, I just want to show you my pool cue.
Okay.
So, because of this, when half of the friends group dies or is in danger, we are not held in suspense over their fate.
Half the people in this photo are now dead.
We don't really care or invest in their deaths. And why is this a problem? If the movie wanted to deliver its horror by one part gruesome deaths and violence, half of the horror is totally lost if the audience cannot remotely care or relate to the characters. We don't process the terror as much as if we were to care about these characters in question. Now, I will admit that you cannot possibly drag out complex backstories for everyone in a horror movie, but with the time frame that you do have, making it so we care about the characters that die is more important than how terribly they die in the first place. Smile predominantly follows Rose Cotter as she deals with Elms. Aside from Laura at the start and Robert near the end, we experience this from her perspective. Now, it might be that the movie Smile has more time to expand on her life than the massive group of friends in Truth or Dare, but it does an excellent job at that.
A patient in your care died brutally in front of you.
I need to find an explanation for what happened.
We see her truly panic, struggle, completely devastated by this entity that is ruining her life.
I've ever seen.
We are invested and thus more horrified because the audience can more easily relate and vicariously experience what Rose is going through than like all of the Truth or Dare friends. Another reason Elms just blows Kalex out of the water is simple. Kalex is a trickster demon, while Elms is a trauma demon. Both menacing, of course, and that's not to say that Truth or Dare couldn't have been way scarier, but just by direct comparison, Kalex enjoys playing, toying, and teasing its victims, wanting to play games that themselves have rules.
Kalex is a trickster.
It's not clear what other games Kalex possessed when he was haunting Mrs. Reyes in the church in her past, but Truth or Dare is obviously not a very scary game. When Olivia invites Kalex to play his own game at the end of the movie, he picks Truth. Half the time the players are picking Truth.
So Truth or Dare, asshole.
Truth.
In my opinion, that's not horror on its own. When Olivia released Kalex into the YouTube video,
I'm so sorry, but I have to ask you. Truth or Dare?
more than half of the time people are going to be picking Truth.
Truth. Truth.
Truth.
Truth, I guess.
Truth.
That's why you're telling us the truth?
No, I picked Dare.
Even when someone picks Dare, Kalex isn't always going to just pick some impossible task that guarantees failure and death.
Get on the table and show everyone your pool cue.
I knew it. Okay.
No, he picks things that cause chaos and are difficult, not impossible. One scene comes into mind. The last remaining friends contemplate that the game is too smart. Earlier, Olivia said she wants to pick Dare because she has a terrible secret that she has been keeping from Marky. When her turn comes, Olivia picks Dare, but is dared to tell the truth.
No, it wouldn't have mattered. This game is smart. It's too smart. We're not playing it, it's playing us. And none of this is a coincidence. It waits for our most vulnerable moments, and that's when it asks us.
Yeah, you got that right, Olivia.
Kalex could have dared Olivia to walk into the road and count to 100, but no, he wanted to play tricks and toy around.
Dare.
Olivia!
I dare you to tell Marky the secret you fear most.
Instead of daring Ronnie to drop his pants in public, he could have dared him to hold his breath for 4 minutes. There is a lack of fear because there is a lack of urgency in danger. Kalex being a trickster in nature means he doesn't want to devour his prey, but instead savor it. And this concept would work if there was lasting stakes in the truths, if the dares were near impossible, something to make the audience anxious and worried about the outcome. Now, Elms was the trauma demon, And off the bat, Rose witnessed Laura gouge her face and bleed to death right in front of her. This happens within the first 15 minutes of the movie. It immediately puts the audience on edge because not only are we seeing the story from the protagonist, but it is the protagonist that has witnessed this horrific event themselves. Adding onto this, Elms took less than a week to eventually kill any one victim. This might just be because of its power, but we as the audience are terrified for Rose because a week is not a long time.
How long between each victim's death?
None of them survived longer than a week.
And lastly, everyone under the sun has some amount of trauma. It's a very common and probably the worst kind of memory humans keep. This doubles as a layer of fear because it's relatable to the audience. The difference in messaging for the movies is that Smile is saying that trauma is not just dangerous, it can kill. Whereas Truth or Dare's message is Truth or Dare is dangerous and it can kill. And the audience will probably not agree with the second one. Now, I want to give a round of applause to Caitlin Stacey, who played Laura Weaver. Shout out, she's an Aussie. She was so incredibly convincing playing someone who was being cursed and genuinely panicking because they know there is no escape, there is no hope, and she's all alone. And she's helpless against this demon haunting her.
It's smiling at me.
And this performance happened before the title, which was such a good introduction to the movie, leaving you stunned and still processing what just happened well into the first act. By comparison, Truth or Dare begins with Giselle, which was one of the friends in Sam's group, not in Olivia's group, who is on the run, nearly escaping Calyx, and asked to set fire to a woman in a distant gas station. But we don't really care about Giselle, we don't know anything about her, and she only appears later to explain the game and then kills Penelope and then kills herself. So there's that.
I'm so sorry, Olivia.
How did you know my name when I got here? I didn't put it in the message.
However, the movie just doesn't have the same driving force at the start or otherwise as Smile did.
It's smiling at me.
Another shout out to Typha Dever for composing such a chilling score for Smile. I can't comment on Truth or Dare's score much, but all I can say is it's not memorable. Smile just creates this energy, this eerie, terrible, itching feeling like when you have a lash inside your eye and it's stinging. When Rose is just panning or pacing, the music carries the movie so incredibly far.
It's smiling at me.
Carl?
You get this feeling of isolation and panic with Smile. With Truth or Dare, you're kind of just wondering what's going to happen next and watching the characters. But again, if you're not even caring for half of the characters, it's like, oh, okay, someone died. Cool. The last section, I want to give my opinion on how to beat each demon. Starting with Calyx, Olivia was very smart at the end, trying to invite Calyx into the game when he appears.
Truth or Dare?
I'm not in this game.
Once you're asked, you're in. Those are the rules, right? So Truth or Dare, asshole.
Truth.
How do we get out of this game alive?
You can't.
If he picked Dare, that would have been game over, because Olivia would have dared him to end the game or something similar. It would appear that you cannot not answer in order to not play, because Calyx will keep asking the question in different ways until you go insane, as illustrated by Olivia, who, after a time of not answering, was just surrounded by different people shouting in her face.
Truth or Dare?
Truth or Dare? Truth or Dare? Truth or Dare? Truth or Dare? Truth or Dare? Truth or Dare?
For Calyx, if all players were to die, I just assume he would be stuck in the church. I can't confirm that, but there's no reason to think he would just roam free. He needs a game to possess.
Carter was the only one who could stop this. So now the game won't end until all the players are dead.
Because Olivia unleashed Calyx via YouTube, that probably means that the game lasts forever, or a very long time. But then it occurred to me, I'm pretty sure the game had already ended.
Truth or Dare?
When Olivia forced Calyx to play his own game, he was added to the queue, was he not?
Your turn. Truth or dare?
So after going through the 100,000 people who watched Olivia's video initially, Calyx's turn would come again. And if nobody asks him or even knows how to find him, the game is forever paused should he not go again. And if Calyx somehow could force people's hand in asking him when it happened to be his turn, with the sequence of 2 truths and a forced dare, statistically Calyx would eventually get a forced dare, and whoever was in charge of picking, they could dare him to end the game. Now, Elms was a lot more powerful in my opinion, tricking Rose in the 3rd act into thinking she had won just so enough time would pass so that police officer Joel could witness Rose's death. It would appear that confronting Rose's trauma was ineffective in defeating Elms, but that doesn't mean that the next person shouldn't try that. Or if Elms infiltrated someone who had no trauma, arguably it would take him longer than a week to kill them. I assume that the reason Elms never killed anyone immediately is because he needed about a week to traumatize his victims in order to possess them. Now, when he does possess you, the person appears to be suffocating, as Laura did at the start. But instead, Elms is literally crawling into their body and then is able to force their hand in suicide. This of course opens up how I think you can defeat Elms. When Joel and Rose are looking at police footage of past victims, Joel can see the moment someone is possessed. He can see the physical smile in the video just before they die, and as they are possessed, it's caught on camera.
20 cases involving 19 victims with a direct line linking them all together.
Even though Elms isn't haunting him, Rose can see it, but the fact that Joel can see the smile with Rose means Elms is interacting in the real world. Because usually only who is cursed can see Elms at all in their head, a hallucination. This must mean when he is controlling people's bodies, he is in the material world for that brief moment, which should mean that if Rose had killed Laura at the start of the movie before Elms had a chance to make her kill herself in front of Rose and pass on to her, hypothetically, Elms would die in the material world and not pass on at all. That if Elms is physically in the body of those he kills, he is vulnerable inside that body and can be defeated. That's all just my theory though. Sorry, this video was a little bit of a ramble, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you agree that Smile was scarier than Truth or Dare? Whether or not you agree with my points or not, let me know what other comparisons you like to see, and I'll see you in the next video.